What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape Podcast, episode 112 with Mikel and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So, this episode is going to be about.
We're doing this is our final episode for our Pride Month series.
Nice.
So why not end it off with talking about Pride Month itself? So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Right. So, what elements are we going to be talking about Pride Month? Because I heard a lot of stuff about Pride Month happen.
Oh, what do you mean?
Yeah. Such as sponsors as well.
I don't think I'm going to be talking about sponsors necessarily. I mean, we can generally if we want to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're just going to be talking about like where Pride Month started, how it
the history
got around. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be talking about sponsors here, but
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
Because that's been the story, but that we can talk about that another time. Go ahead.
Okay, so Pride Month, also specified as the LGBTQ Pride Month, is a month-long observance dedicated to the celebration of LGBTQ pride, commemorating the contributions of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer culture and community. Pride Month is observed in June in the United States and also here in Canada, coinciding with the anniversary of the 1969 Stonewall Riots, a series of gay liberation and protests, which we talked about in our very first episode. So if you didn't listen to that, you can go back to that and listen to that. The first Pride marches were held in 4 U.S. cities in June 1970, 1 year after the riots of the Stonewall Inn, as we discussed in that episode. The New York City March, promoted as Christopher Street Liberation Day, alongside the parallel marches in Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, marked a watershed moment for LGBT rights. An organizer of some of the first marches, Fred Sargent, stated the goal was to commemorate the Stonewall Riots and further push for liberation. He noted that while the first marches were more akin to a protest than a celebration, it helped to remind people of LGBT communities and how they may include one's family and friends. Transgender women and people of color, including Marsha P. Johnson, who we talked about more in depth last year, Sylvia Rivera, and Stormy I think it's Larveri, were largely excluded or silenced during the early marches, despite their prominent participation in the initial riots, which is very interesting. Following the Stonewall Riots and the first Pride marches, the number of LGBT groups rapidly increased, and the Pride movement spread across the United States after a few years. While many Pride celebrations around the world are held in June, some cities vary the observation at different times, partially due to local weather conditions. Polyamory Day, Pride Day, apparently, that's a thing, is celebrated every year on a day in Pride Month. So that's really interesting.
So fun fact that 1973 Pride Month National LGBT rights event is held in several Canadian cities, including Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Saskatoon, and Winnipeg. This event considered the first ever parade in Vancouver. So the first ever parade was in Vancouver. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's also interesting, like we were actually recording this a few weeks ahead, but there was a Pride parade in Ajax yesterday, and
interesting.
No one knew, first of all. I don't know why they didn't advertise it better, but of course, like they take like the same route they do for the Santa Claus parade.
Right.
But No one knew that it was even happening.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know if they've ever done one in Ajax before.
I have
Um,
never seen one in either Pickering, Ajax.
mm-mm,
Possibly there might be one. There might have been one in like Oshawa. I wouldn't doubt it.
I don't know, but
Possibly.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Because I think I seen something. I think I saw something last year. Someone was promoting, there was a sign in Oshawa. Because I did work at Oshawa last year, and I did saw
Mm,
like a couple signs that was promoting a parade,
mm,
probably a small one,
mm.
and yeah.
Yeah, no, no, 9 times out of 10, there's only ever gonna be one parade,
Hmm.
in whatever city. I'm sure Toronto. I don't know
Yeah,
when
yeah, no,
Toronto's
no,
happening.
I know Toronto's
Yeah, no, I
obviously
know.
Toronto's the main one
Yeah, I
actually.
don't know when they're doing Toronto's, but
Yeah.
if it's happened already, I don't even know. But
Hmm.
by the time I'm sure this comes out, it's already happened. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, it was interesting to hear though that they did one at Ajax. I'm like, huh,
Hmm.
I don't know if they've ever done one before, but
Hmm. Yeah,
it's good.
never. Yeah, never.
I'm
Yeah,
happy that they did.
yeah.
Um, I just wish maybe they would have actually advertised that a little bit better. But anyways,
I
um,
mean, Ajax is kind of well.
doesn't matter. They
Yeah.
advertise when the Santa Claus parade is happening in Ajax. And the reason why I say
Oh
that
yeah,
is
and the Easter
because
parade as well too. Yeah, that's
I
true.
we have
Yeah.
an Easter parade. Didn't know
You,
we had
you,
Easter
you
parade.
don't know about that? Yeah,
No,
Pickering always every single
maybe
year
Pickering, but not in
advertise it.
Ajax.
Pickering? Oh, not in Ajax?
I don't
Oh,
think there's one in Ajax.
okay. Oh.
Um, but yeah, I think the only parade we have is Santa Claus parade. But well, besides now this, but um
Underfest.
they advertise that in depth and they advertise it for weeks ahead
Hmm.
because of closures, right? There are
Hmm.
going to be closures. So my mom and my grandpa, because they went shopping yesterday, they had no clue that it was happening. And the detour it was Westney, which is usually always the detour. Um, but my grandpa had no clue.
Hmm.
And you only, for him, where he comes from, he has like a couple opportunities to get to Westney before he hits Harwood, where the parade was happening.
I wonder. I
But
wonder why that is. Maybe because it was not from the city. It's probably from a small company. Do you think so?
uh, I don't know because
Probably
again,
just like rented
you have to get a permit to do
permit.
the
Yeah,
parade. So
obviously. Yeah,
either way, the town is involved.
yeah,
So
yeah.
why
But
didn't the
like,
town
it's
advertise?
involved. But like,
The
probably like
town
a small company just approached the
doesn't.
city hall.
It still doesn't matter. It is the
Okay.
town's responsibility
Hmm.
to advise people of what is happening,
Right.
when it's happening, and how it's happening.
Okay.
It's still the town's responsibility.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they did not do that. Not this
Okay.
time, anyways. Maybe they'll
Hmm.
do better next year,
Hmm.
but they did not properly advertise. They have their signage. There's signage all over the place. In my area, in my side of Ajax, the other side of Ajax,
There was
there is
signage. Like there was a lot of signage, and
not for the Pride Parade, no. For
oh,
Santa
okay.
Claus Parade, yes, there are signage. They'll do advertisements on the website, whatever.
Hmm.
They'll do that. And my grandpa's the kind of person he's most likely on the town of
See,
Ajax website a lot. So he missed it.
see.
He did not see that, which
Hmm.
is, I think they just did not advertise it well enough for the purposes of a people going who want to
Hmm.
support, also for closures, and possible detours. There just wasn't a lot of that going on
Interesting.
in comparison to the Santa Claus parade.
Was there anybody like? Did you see there's any crowd around, or was it just like a huge
I
crowd, or
didn't
was
go
it?
out, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
you
But
don't know. Okay, you
um,
just heard about it.
and it
Okay,
was a lot. It was yeah, it was a lot.
of
It
people.
wasn't as big as like the Santa Claus parade in terms of how long it was going on for. Like it was done
Mm.
at a certain time.
Hmm.
But from my understanding, I think my grandfather realized what was going on at last minute, so he had to kind of, I guess, detour over to another spot. But he said also it was madness,
It was
which is
madness.
yeah, in terms of getting through because of
Oh,
cars
getting
and
through.
traffic and
Yeah,
stuff
because
like that.
traffic and every single
Yeah,
thing.
which
Yeah.
is typical, but yeah, I think also people will, I don't know. I think
Hmm.
in this case, they could have advertised it a bit better. Obviously, people aren't going to necessarily avoid leaving their house in the middle of the day
How would they would
in
do it?
comparison to Santa Claus Parade, where you will,
Hmm.
oh, we can go out, do what we gotta do, but
Yeah.
be done by a certain
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's different. This was obviously a
Yeah.
very different
Yeah.
situation, but I had no clue. I had no clue. Didn't know what was happening.
Mm,
My mom didn't know what was
mm,
happening. My grandma didn't know what was happening. No
mm,
one knew what was happening. Which I think is also a disservice. Like, why didn't they advertise that better? I don't know. Anyways,
mm.
back to this. Um,
Go ahead.
as June became recognized as Pride Month in the United States to commemorate the Stonewall Uprising, President Bill Clinton officially declared in a presidential proclamation June, quote, Gay and Lesbian Pride Month in 1999. So that's not very long ago. It's not that long ago. Barack Obama expanded the official Pride Month recognition in
Hmm.
2011, including the whole of the
Yeah.
LGBT community. So
Yeah, I
not
remember that.
just the lesbian and
Yeah.
gay, but everybody a part of that community.
Hmm.
And then, you know where I'm headed, right? And
Yeah.
then
I know.
Donald Trump declined to offer federal recognition of
Hmm.
Pride Month in 2017, though he issued supportive public statements in a series of tweets in 2019 before he got banned on Twitter. Joe Biden recognized Pride Month after taking office in 2021 and vowed to push for LGBT rights in the United States, despite previously voting against same sex marriage and school education of LGBT topics in the Senate. So
Right.
that is interesting. But
Yes.
we will
See,
say because he's old, we'll say that.
see, they're banning a whole lot of like, DEI type of books in the
Mm-hmm.
library as well. You
Mm-hmm.
heard about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the
Yep.
United States. Not
Mm-hmm.
sure if they're doing that in Canada. I don't think so.
I
I don't
don't
think
think
they're doing
so. It's
no.
mainly in the states it's happening, not everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
In certain states, it's happening, like Florida
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
I heard I like there was articles about that. It's crazy
Mhm.
because I understand kids shouldn't learn the sexual part of stuff. But
No, I don't.
the the
I don't agree with that actually.
yeah, but the love, like the relationship, how to be caring towards uh
A partner.
a partner. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the type of stories that you should be promoting. Not
Here's here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to kind of piggyback
yeah,
off what you're saying.
yeah, yeah,
Um, a few different things. So this my thoughts might be a little long, but here we go.
yeah,
Number one, in terms of the banning of the books,
yeah.
for those people who watch like TLC and watched I Am Jazz,
Hmm.
I don't know if that show's ever coming back, but
Hmm.
nonetheless, I Am Jazz for Jazz Jennings. I remember because she lives in Florida or lived in Florida. She just graduated from Harvard, so she was in Massachusetts. When she was in Florida, living in Florida, she, if anyone knows kind of the history right now with what's going on within Florida, it is illegal to say the word gay. Okay. You can't say the word gay in Florida right now,
Hmm.
um, which is ridiculous. But anyways, um,
Because I think it's used towards a slang or so, towards
no, it's not
direct.
because of that.
Okay, all
It
right,
is
okay.
because of what you think it's about. It is about being gay. That's what it's about.
Oh, okay. It's
It's a
too
it's a hate thing. It's
right,
what's coming down to.
right. Okay, I didn't. Okay,
Yeah, it had nothing to do
yeah.
with that. Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
but her experience, because she is a transgendered woman, and I don't know if it's her who wrote the book, or she was promoting a book that had to do with
Mm,
transgender, whether it was transgender man or woman, but she was getting pushback from schools in Florida to promote this book. And it's like, why? Now, uh, with her aside, because I know she gets a lot of hate just being who she is. People are horrible. But that aside, that's one thing that kind of is going on. But
mm,
I I disagree with you on the sense of not necessarily learning about sexual parts because as a person who is straight, who went to a Catholic school,
Right.
we were talking about sexual parts, but in a reproductive way. So that is,
I mean,
I don't disagree. I don't necessarily think that that's the issue,
mhm.
right? But now in schools, they are talking about that. They are talking about, we've talked about this before on this podcast, talking
So,
about anal sex, um, and stuff like that. They are talking about those things.
yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, like younger kids, like young, like
You do
the
age appropriate,
kindergarten from yeah,
but
age
obviously
appropriate,
you
right?
do
Yeah,
age appropriate. But
yeah, and
obviously something
that's what I meant. Yeah,
talking about first of all, we didn't talk about sex ed until you reached like I guess
grade,
grade
grade,
one.
grade one, really?
Yeah, but remember, age appropriate. Age appropriate.
Grade one.
hmm
I
I
think.
think that's changed, but
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, it was grade one.
Wow.
But it is age appropriate. And you also have to think about the fact of I came from a Catholic school, so obviously they teach abstinence and all of that, but it's
Grade
age appropriate.
grade one is it 6, 7 years old?
6 or
Grade
7
one?
years old, yes.
Oh, jeez.
But it is age appropriate.
Yeah, so
So I
10,
think you're
years from 10
thinking
years
as an
old.
adult,
No, no,
you
I'm
have
thinking 14, I'm thinking 14,
no,
16.
but you're not, but that's not how it's being taught in grade one. You're not, you can't think of it from that perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a different.
Actually 10, because like that's when you're
Yeah, but even
almost
then,
it.
I was learning it before then.
Hmm.
Yeah, in my school at
Hmm.
that time in the 90s. So, it
Hmm.
was different. But again, it wasn't like, here's a penis, here's a vagina. So, no, it's age appropriate and again, like for people who are, my age, roughly, who went to a Catholic school, at
Yeah.
least in this country, fully alive, and they pull out that fully alive in chapter three. It's always sex ed.
Mm.
But yeah, it was always age appropriate. It
I
was
remember
never,
I remember body parts, learning about body parts in grade one, but not learning about sex. That's okay, all
well, there was,
right.
yeah, but yeah, so you might, but that's a part of sex ed.
Really?
Of
Oh, okay.
course it is.
Oh, okay.
100%.
Mm.
That's a part of sex ed. And that, that I don't have issue with.
Hmm.
Um, and I never will have issue with that. But, um, so that's why I'm a little bit like, I'm going to challenge you on that because I don't think there's issue with learning about that at any age, but age appropriate.
I mean, like, I mean, like, like, actually, sex, like, that should be like around the ages of like, I don't mean about like body parts and everything like that, like engaging in sexual activities. I don't think you should be learning that in grade one.
No, obviously not learning that in
Yeah,
grade one.
yeah,
But again, here's what I'll say too.
yeah,
Every child goes through life differently,
yeah, yeah.
right? So my experience through childhood
Hmm.
was very different because I was maturing fast. I was already in a bra at 6 years old, A cup, but I was still in a bra. And I was maturing faster. I got my period only 3 years after that. So I was maturing faster. So because I was maturing faster, I was having to learn things faster. Still age appropriate, but I was still having to learn things faster. But I know for a fact that we were learning certain things in school already. But even me, I wasn't learning everything, obviously, but I was still like, I was aware of things because your body is changing. So even going through adolescence, going through puberty, things like that, that is a part of that curriculum. It is a
Hmm.
part of sex ed because
Hmm.
all of that will eventually lead to that. So that's, what I mean by sex ed age appropriate. It just depends on where you're at. Um, so the other thing too that I wanted to mention here that I think is also important, and I learned this actually from Teen Mom, but I think it's actually a fantastic thing that I think everyone should know, even if you don't watch Teen Mom. One of the moms on the show was wanting to talk to her daughter about sex and
Hmm.
safety around sex and all of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Because obviously, being a teen mom herself, you want better for your kids, right? So the person who spoke to her basically said, listen, you need to talk about sex, you need to talk about the safety, using condoms, all of that. But then you also need to talk about the fact that sex is pleasurable. And the reason that people have sex is for pleasure. And of course, she's like, I don't want to talk about that with my daughter
Hmm.
because obviously you don't want to entice her to
Hmm.
want to have sex.
Hmm.
Um, but the reason she said this, and I think is actually smart, is the reason you teach your kids about sex being pleasurable is because you want your children to know the difference between pleasurable sex, something that is consented on, something that is wanted versus something that is not, meaning rape. So, and I thought that is so good because like I was never told that as a kid. I wasn't told that sex is pleasurable and to know the difference between the two. Unfortunately learned through experience the difference between pleasurable and not pleasurable.
Hmm.
So, I thought that is so important to talk about.
Right, right.
And she's 13, her daughter's 13. So I think like
That's
that,
reasonable. That's reasonable to talk
yeah.
about. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Oh
it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
And yes, you talk about that with your child. Yes, you might say it is pleasurable, and yes, that might entice them. But I think the other part to it as well that I didn't learn from my mother, but I definitely talked about this with my friend because she had, lost her virginity before me. Sex is painful initially as a woman. Can't speak on men,
Yeah,
but
that's what I've been hearing a lot in terms of like,
uh,
yeah,
um,
it is. Yeah.
yes, it is painful.
Yeah.
Um, it can also be traumatizing.
Hmm.
I remember my first time for many reasons.
Hmm.
I mean, again, if kids are listening, stop listening. But what I'll say is my first time, yes, had the pleasure element to it. Like it's weird, but it also was painful. It also was traumatizing, for reasons that I won't say necessarily for the fact of it's just we need to go there. But as women, you most likely know what I'm saying on that. Um, so there's also that part of it too. And you don't want to have sex as a first time as a woman before you're ready because like that can really shape a person. Um, so yeah, like there's that part. But so
Right.
yeah, so I
Right.
think that's also important, I think, as well, that I will definitely take with me when I have kids. And we'll talk about that with
So,
not just the women, but
yeah.
my girls, but my boys as well.
So, what do you think of the people who say that you're forcing this the LGBTQ community uh on my children? What do you say about the people? Because there are people out there that there are parents, there are people,
I know.
there are people that think like that. So
I know people personally who
yeah,
think that way.
yeah.
Um, what I'll say to that is you can't make your children gay
Hmm.
or whatever the case may be, whether it's gay,
Yeah,
lesbian, transgender,
yeah.
queer, whatever. Honestly, I think we're all a little queer at the end of the day. Whether you act upon it is different, but I think we're all a little queer. But at the end of the day, though, you can't force that on somebody.
Hmm.
You can't make them gay.
Hmm.
They are most likely born that way.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of it. I think a lot of people think no one is born gay,
Hmm.
but you are. So it's literally factual at this point that
Hmm.
people are born this way.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's you don't like it, then I don't know what to say to you. Because I think also teaching children about the community, about Pride Month, about all of
Mm,
that is also not only telling kids who may be gay or lesbian or transgender or whatever
mm.
that it is okay to be who you are.
Right.
It is also teaching children who are cisgendered, straight, that you need to respect people of all walks of life. And
Agree.
they are no different than you are. They're just walking a different path. That is all.
Hmm.
So that's what I would say is this isn't hurting anybody. I have said, like I think I said this, and I think I'm coming from a Catholic perspective
Hmm.
that I was like, my mind can't wrap around it. But at the same time, I have to also remember that we are, I mean, at least with our last pope, we're blurring lines a little bit more that I think is
Hmm.
perfectly fine. But I think because of how I was taught in school, in Catholic school, you're taught sex is for reproductive purposes. Now, not all of us act upon that, but I included. But that's whatever. That's what I've been taught, right? So when I'm also being told by teachers in school that anal sex is a no-no
Hmm.
because you can't get pregnant that way, right? So when I hear the Catholic schools now are teaching about that in school, my mind can't wrap around it because I'm like, but we're told that's not okay. Like as a Catholic, we're told that's not okay. Now, do I think anything by doing anal sex? No, I don't give a shit. Do all the anal sex you want to do. Okay. I'm not
Hmm.
against it.
Hmm.
Honestly, done it. So I don't care.
Hmm.
But it's more about the fact of in Catholicism, we are told this is not okay. And to see
Right.
that it's happening in Catholic school, I'm like, I don't know whether to be confused or to
Hmm.
be elated.
Hmm.
I'm kind of somewhere in the middle there because I'm like, I'm confused. Because for 18 years of my life being in a Catholic school, I was being told this ain't okay. Like I literally had a conversation about this with a religion teacher in grade 12. Yeah, so what I was saying, I literally had a grade 12 religion teacher tell
Hmm.
me and the entire class because I think I've told this story before, but I had a
Hmm.
friend who was talking to me about um, um, two gay men who were in a hotel room. I think it was like a family member who worked as a maid in this hotel. Um, and it had two gay men that she had to clean up after. And I won't go into the details, but let's just say
Hmm.
they didn't douche. Okay. We'll just say that.
Hmm.
But um, I was laughing at the whole situation because I'm like, what the hell? And then obviously that alerted my teacher, and then we started having conversation about anal sex. I'm literally being told you don't do that
Hmm.
because, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
you can't get pregnant that way. So I don't like that's where my mind is at. I'm happy that's being discussed because let's face it, we're all gonna try it at least one time in our
Hmm.
lives. Let's be
Hmm.
real. We're gonna at least try. Um, but I think it's important to talk about because, like I said, full disclosure, I've done it. And it's, there's not a lot of discussion on what that entails, what that feels like. And it's not as easy as the other hole, right? So I think it is important, depending on, I guess, obviously where you're at in your, like, what age you're at, where you'll talk about that and stuff like that. But I think, like, it is important to talk about because the reality is you're most likely going to try it. So yeah, I have seen no issue with it in that sense. It's just my Catholic mind who went to school there for, at that particular, when I saw it was actually at my elementary school, I saw a sign about it. I was like, what? Like I was like mind boggling to me. I'm like,
Mm,
for 13 years or 10 years of my life being at that school, I'm just like, they never talked about that. So
interesting. Yeah.
not even in high school. They never talked about that in high school, except for that one conversation because I was laughing like a hyena. But otherwise,
I could have sworn I could have sworn for me, I heard about it in high school. Yeah, but not in
no. Now,
elementary.
obviously, you hear about it
Uh,
amongst each other, but um, it was never talked about in school.
mm,
At least in my experience,
mhm,
it was never talked about in school.
mhm,
Like within like the teachers and the classroom and stuff like that, it was never talked about. Um,
mm,
but yeah, like I definitely was a person that's like, I'm never doing that. And then, well, yeah,
mm,
then. But yeah, so yeah, I
mhm,
think it's good to talk about
mhm,
to just mentally prepare yourself if
mhm, mhm.
you were to try it and do that. I don't know.
Right.
And again, that doesn't just go for gay people, straight people do it too.
Mhm.
Anyways, um,
Go
so
ahead.
where was I here? So Pride Month has since grown into a global celebration of LGBTQ plus culture and identity. Um, so Pride Month is often observed in several LGBT affirming religious congregations, as well. In February 2025, Google announced that Pride Month would no longer be highlighted by default on Google Calendar. Why? Arguing that it was no longer, quote, scalable or sustainable to continue adding the growing number of national and international
Yeah.
cultural moments manually to its calendars.
Yeah.
So is that just Pride Month, but you're
Ye-
still continuing with others? Or is like all of them now no longer being added to the calendar?
We yeah, we talked about this like in an early episode.
Yeah.
Google did that. We yeah, Google was taking off like, certain
Certain ones.
yeah, certain like anything that involves DEI, including with Black History Month, that's been around for history. Like it's been around
Yeah.
for our generation, previous generations,
Mhm.
like, and for you to just like take it off. I don't understand the silly ones like Waffle Month, woo, Pancake Day, or all
I,
that stuff.
I
Like,
argue with Pancake Day. Do you want to know why? I argue with Pancake Day only because Pancake Day is technically started within Catholicism because of Lent. Pancake Day
okay,
is something
okay.
that's supposed to be like your last hurrah before entering
Mhm,
into Lent.
mhm.
So
Oh, okay,
I
okay,
argue Pancake Day. I
okay,
do,
all right.
but I
Yeah,
would still understand you taking it off.
yeah,
But
like,
I don't understand Black History Month. I don't understand Pride Month. I think you know, let's take Black History Month out of it for a second because I do think we talked about this during then.
mhm,
So for Pride Month, with this, it's like the community has fought and fought and fought for inclusion.
mhm,
And then for you to take it off, why? What's
mhm.
the purpose of that?
Right.
Honestly, I feel like that's a pretty bold statement. You're saying what you're
Yeah,
feeling without actually
yeah,
really saying it.
yeah,
I just don't understand why you would do that for Pride Month.
yeah.
Or like we said, Black History Month. Like, why would you do that?
I 100% agree. I just don't know. A lot of these tech companies are feeling, I think, because of like, uh, being elected, new elected president. Ever since then, it's been a lot of changes. I remember during the time of like, the term of Joe Biden's term, a lot of companies was celebrating Prime, changing their displays on their either Facebook, Twitter pages,
I
or
saw it more.
yeah,
You're right. I saw it more
I
during Joe
saw
Biden's
more.
presidential
Yeah, I saw more. And then
term.
this year,
Nothing,
holy nothing.
barely
Companies
anything.
just
You're right.
yeah. companies are just I saw some stuff from some of the sports teams, like, the Toronto Raptors did something,
Mm,
Toronto Temple, Toronto Maple Leafs surprisingly did something. The NHL did something as well. So like, uh, but they didn't do like, change their bios, change their profile pictures, just nothing.
yeah,
Just this
and
huge shift.
that's like interestingly enough, like okay, so I did talk about reality gaze on our actually our last step or a few weeks ago we talked about it.
Hmm.
But technically our last episode of what we recorded, which was today. But I I remember I was listening to they have like their little daily dose that they do every week,
Hmm.
every Friday, and they said like, gay rights, it's under attack right now. And it's true, it is under attack.
Hmm.
And simply adding a rainbow flag under your profile pic is something. And I think like that's important. Um, but I mean, at this point, as recording, I haven't yet changed our like the wallpaper or whatever they call it on Twitter, um, the background picture yet. But that by the time this episode is out, it will have already been changed. But um, doing something like that, that's what I do it with. I'll do it with this. I've done it with Women's History Month. I've done it with Black History Month. It's important to do stuff like that to kind of show like, you know, the government on a whole wants to be assholes about this, but we can still support this because they have been fighting for their rights
Hmm.
and their rights are being taken away from them.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's ridiculous. But
Yeah. It is. It is.
um
100% it is.
so the International LGBT Pride Day is a day dedicated to LGBT pride held on June 28th. So just a couple of days from now to commemorate the anniversary of the Stonewall Riots prior to the entire month becoming associated with LGBT pride. The San Francisco Pride March was promoted as the International Lesbian and Gay Freedom Day Parade from 1981 to 1994, likely the origin of an International Pride Day. Serbian group Arc, oh God, Arc Adija, I think,
Mhm.
uh, commemorated International Pride Day in 1991 with a forum concerning queer activism and art at Belgrade Youth Center. Nicaragua's first public Pride festival was also held on this day in 1991. So, um, yeah, June, I think it was June 20th, um, to commemorate the Stonewall Riots. Serbia also marked International Pride Day in between 2013 and 2015 with hate-free zone actions organized by GSA, Women in Black, and other NGOs. So, in terms of criticism, some have criticized how many companies released Pride Month themed products, as we were just kind of talking about,
Mhm.
likening it to the concept of slacktivism, as the companies are perceived to be using the topic of LGBT rights as a means of profit without contributing to the movement in a meaningful way.
Mhm.
I think if you're going to do that, I think you should donate some proceeds to um, a charity
Yes.
in the
And,
community. I do think so.
and like I was saying about the beginning of the episode, the sponsorships that like came out of the like sponsors like, Home Depot
Mhm.
are no longer sponsoring. And I think Scotia Bank is no longer sponsoring
I haven't
the
noticed.
Prime Month
Actually,
parade.
you know what? While we're doing this right now, I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
log into my bank app and I can tell you that because I know last year it was
Mhm.
evident that it was they were doing something for it. But I can tell you right now, I don't think so. I think you're right. I don't think
Yep.
they are.
Yep.
Which is, yeah, I do remember last year they
Which
did.
that's a Canadian company. It's not American. I'm
No,
guessing. So are they feeling the same pressure with, with America too, or
I
it's
don't
just,
know.
it's
I
just
mean,
I know
it is a
I know
Canadian company, yes, but I think Scotiabank is international.
They done business.
So
Yeah, they have done business with America.
yeah,
Yeah, I know that.
yeah.
Yeah,
None of those done business. They're international. Like you
yeah.
can Americans can have an account. Um, I know for a fact Jamaica, they have Scotiabank in Jamaica as well. So they are international, even though yes, they're a Canadian company, but they are international. So I do wonder, like, one size does not fit all in that case. Because I can imagine, like, take America out of it for a second, knowing that they do have banks in Jamaica. Um, I imagine they cannot do any sort of um, pride recognition in Jamaica.
Mm.
I would imagine that's an absolute no.
Yeah, that's a no.
That's an absolute no.
Yeah,
Um,
Google is a sponsorship that pulled out as well too. So they pulled out.
it's like, why?
Yeah, they pulled out as
I mean,
well.
I can
So
maybe understand with Google, it's an American company, but
yeah.
why? What? Like, oh God. And this is why they, like, you know,
Hmm.
Reality Gaze literally said, we are under attack. And it's
Hmm.
true. The community is under attack. Anyway, um, others have criticized the seemingly hypocritical nature of companies making social media profiles evoke the rainbow pride flag while refusing to alter the profile pictures in areas without broad LGBT acceptance. Some religious and cultural groups oppose Pride Month on ideological grounds. They view
Mm.
LGBTQ plus identities and relationships as contrary to their beliefs and traditions, as I've just discussed as a person who was immersed in Catholicism. Yes, you are literally told as a Catholic, it is okay to have thoughts. It is okay to have thoughts and feelings towards same sex. But as soon as you act on it, that's the sin. So,
Huh.
yeah, that's what has been holding my brain since I was in school as well. But these objections often lead to tensions and conflicts during Pride Month. So, kind of just talking about the different, also talking about these two different countries here. New Zealand Pride Month is celebrated at different times throughout New Zealand. In Auckland, it is celebrated in February. And in Christchurch, sorry, in Wellington, Pride Month is in March, so not June. In Canada, rather than Pride Month, celebrations are held from June to September, is what it in what is known as Pride season.
Wow.
Have you seen anything like that? I haven't. I only see it in June. I only see it in June. I don't see it in September.
I don't see it in September. And I know I heard of a Pride Appreciation Month, but
Mhm.
never a parade. So it might have been another month that a
Well,
Pride
the
Appreciation.
parade happens in June. We'll talk.
Yeah,
This is more about Pride
yeah,
Month. We do
yeah.
talk about Pride parades in our previous episode, which, spoiler alert, we haven't recorded yet, but that
Mhm,
is in it's going to be our
mhm,
previous one, our previous
mhm.
episode. But this is just month in general.
Yeah.
So parade, no, obviously that only happens in June. But they're talking Pride season, like recognition and appreciation, all of that is held from June to September. The only thing that I have seen that I can maybe say, okay, maybe, is I've seen like a Pride flag here and there, depending on the company.
Mhm,
Like I've maybe seen it with, I don't know if CIBC does it, but I think TD has. I've seen they have.
mhm.
Um, I've seen that they've done it, maybe not everywhere, but I've seen they have done that. Um, but otherwise,
Yeah.
no, I haven't seen it. So I don't know what they're talking about. We, I've not
Mm.
seen a season per se.
Not
Um,
season, but
not
like
season.
another month
Not
that
even
does
that.
no.
I've only ever seen it in June. like really seen it in
Mm,
June.
mm.
I haven't seen it otherwise. The only, maybe it happens in other provinces, maybe,
Possibly.
possibly,
Yeah.
because for us, at least here in, we'll say Toronto,
Mhm,
here you have Pride in June, not much going on in July except for Canada Day.
mhm.
And then August, the main focus in August is um like Caravana, at least in the first week of August,
Yeah.
is Caravana.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where does Pride fit in there? You know what I mean?
Mhm,
So I personally, as a person who lives in Ontario near Toronto in the GTA, I have not seen a Pride season. I've seen Pride month. That's it.
mhm,
I'd
mm.
be down for a Pride season. What? Like, bring it
Season.
all.
Pride
I'm
season?
fine with a Pride season. That's
Like
what they're saying in Canada, is apparently Pride season from June to September. I have not seen
during
it.
September. Well,
Hmm.
just June.
Just
Just
June.
June. Just
Just
June.
June. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So, okay. So going back to like the company thing, like,
Mm.
what do you think about you heard about the Target thing, right?
No.
Target thing that they got rid of their whole like, they're no longer like supporting anything that's DEI and people just boycotting Target in America. And,
Because they
yeah,
definitely did before, didn't they?
no, they were always supporting DEI and like
No,
pride.
no, that's what I mean, that they were supporting Pride.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I
But
remember like seeing the commercials for Target and whatnot.
yeah,
Last year when they were like they clearly they would change like the Target dot or whatever, the
yeah, yeah,
Target
yeah,
to Pride colors.
yeah,
So I remember that. So now, yeah, like I haven't seen a Target commercial yet this month.
yeah.
So
Target
I'm
made,
assuming that I won't see that.
yeah, Target made a decision to drop DEI and the largest pride festival in the company home state of Minnesota decided to drop them as a sponsor. Twin City Pride raised over twice the amount of pledged by Target in less than 24 hours. So
Mhm.
yeah, they also dropped it as well. So like I know a lot of customers are boycotting Target and I'm hearing that their sales are getting impacted by it.
Good,
So
good. Because what is the
the,
reason for
the
that?
stock's dropping. Yeah.
Because again, like we're used to
Yeah.
certain companies like Papa John's,
Mhm,
or I know there's a one in America that
mhm,
Chick-fil-A, I think, or I think it might be Chick-fil-A or it might be one of those. Um, that also it's pretty known they're not gay friendly. They're not LGBTQ plus friendly. That's not that's not surprising. But when you have companies like Target
mhm,
who were supporting the community and no longer like, nope, we're not doing it this year, it's just it's just another insult to injury with everything that is being hit, or we're coming towards that community right now with the administration. Um, but even before Trump too, like even before, well, can't even say before Trump. A lot of this is because of Trump, whether it's this term or his previous term.
mhm,
So yeah, like we're seeing that with, you know, mainly it seems like his main target right now, sure that will change, is the transgender community in particular.
mhm,
So it's like, that and drag queens as well. And um, but there's nothing stopping him from attacking others as well in that community, and I'm sure he will.
mhm,
So, but it's at the end of the day, I'm just a firm believer of you're not hurting anybody, you're not doing anything to anyone, you're
mhm,
not living your authentic life,
mhm.
whether that is you want to change genders, you want to um, be gay. I don't care. Live your best life because that's what I'm doing. You're not hurting me. I don't like do what you want to do because
Mhm.
I get to do what I want to do
Right,
as a
right, right.
straight. cis woman. Like, do what you
Right.
want to do. Like, you want to, you're a man and you like men. Same. Like,
Yeah. So
I
yeah.
like too. Like, I relate with you. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Do what you want. Do what makes you happy, you know.
Yeah.
Don't let someone tell you what to do that, that doesn't make you happy,
Yeah. And
Don't let
another
it.
thing too that again I'm kind of going back to reality gays here, but because again they're gay men, so what they say is way more prominent than what I'm saying. But another thing that they said too is, which I think is also very true, being gay is more than just sex and your sexuality. It's so much more than that. Being gay also means I'm capable of loving a man or a woman or whatever. It's, it's more than just our our sexuality, which again, this I can understand that. And when I put myself in a different perspective as a woman, I am more than just my sexuality, you know? And a lot of times, especially as Black women, we're viewed as sexual demons. And, you know, that we're more than that. So I can kind of understand it when I put it through that perspective. And I also can be like, yeah, that stereotype is definitely out there, especially on gay men. And I think a lot of that comes from the AIDS epidemic. I think a lot of those stereotypes come from that,
Uh-huh.
which we talked about in the first episode or second episode, I should say. But yeah,
Yeah.
but that's
Okay.
it for me.
That's it.
Hmm.
Okay. So this ends this episode of the Next Take podcast 112. The Next Take podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanika.
Next take podcast.podpage.io.
And where else we at?
Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Next Take Pod.
And you can contact us on an email at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. That's mikeltanyka@gmail.com. So I believe this is the final.
This is the final one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Final episode. Didn't want to say anything, and I shouldn't doing mistakes, but yeah, this is the final episode of the Pride Month series. You can check out the last two that we did. Good episodes.
Well, no, we did
Yeah,
three. We did three.
with
We
three,
just
but
haven't
the
recorded that
last
third one
two,
yet.
yeah, the one, two, yeah, and then
We
this
just
is the
haven't
one.
recorded that third one yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, basically 3 episodes, and yeah, I I just wanted to say just stay positive.
Hmm.
Don't let anyone tell you what to do with your sexuality or who you are as a person, and be happy.
Be
That's all I have to say.
be gay, be proud. Just,
Yeah, be proud of
yeah,
who you are.
yeah,
So yeah, that's all I have to say towards this whole series that we did and celebrating Pride Month in general. So
yeah.
um
And
yeah.
we'll be back next year with
Hmm.
our next series, or our
Hmm.
second annual Pride series will
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
next year.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean those topics are pretty much already teed up, so
All right.
they're ready to go for next year.
Okay. Okay. Anything you want to say, Tanika? Any more? Or
No, I mean we're heading into July.
all right.
That's it.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm Mikel, and
And I'm Tanika.
we're out until
Next week.
next week. Peace, guys.
Bye.